All right, welcome back, Tampa. You're listening to our final segment with our favorite golf commentator right here on the Let's Go Low Show, Mr. Mike Hicks, Payne Stewart's former caddy. We are concluding our U.S. Open discussion. What a great weekend, Father's Day weekend. A great finish by Wyndham Clark, who held the lead for the majority of the tournament. Got it done on Sunday. All great things by Wyndham. Showing his display of professionalism, grabbing his second U.S. Open, and fighting off Sam Burns. Mike, thanks for joining us once again and coming back for this third segment.
Yeah, he was wire to wire. It's only happened 3 or 4 other times in U.S. Open history, wire to wire winner. That's a lot of pressure. Payne Stewart in 1998 had the lead for 3 days. At Olympic Club, and led pretty much for 70 holes and lost it the last couple of holes. So it's hard. It's a hard thing to finish off, especially if you're leading the whole week, because the media, you're the guy. All the attention's on you, and as the week goes on, the pressure gets greater and greater. So again, hats off to Wyndham for handling everything, all the outside noise, all the abuse from the gallery, from the fan. I mean, where else? I mean, an American trying to win the U.S. Open, and they're cheering for his ball to roll off the green or go in a bunker, or he missed a putt. I could see it if it was a foreigner, and they're cheering for an American, but not on U.S. soil. So, Wyndham showed a lot of moxie, showed a lot of self-belief, a lot of courage in being able to block all that noise out and concentrate on what he was doing. So it was a great win in more ways than one.
Yeah, and that was well said. You know what I mean? And they did ride him up in New York quite a bit, and we talked about that in our previous episode. And I think the golf fandom and the golf fan base just needs to put that to bed now. He apologized. He was remorseful. Apology was accepted by Oakmont and the PGA Tour. And but the media likes the highlights. They like to poke the fire and poke the bear, and so they keep on bringing it up. But hopefully we don't see any of that anymore. And definitely, being an American winning the U.S. Open, should have been cheering for him and excited for him. It wasn't like a Ryder Cup foe was in the lead and they're, doing the usual jarring that happens on in that. We're talking with Mike Hicks. Mike is our famed guest here in the Caddie Corner on the Let's Go Low Show right here on AM 820, the Big 8 in Tampa, and we're honored to have him. If you wanted to reach out to Mike, possibly if you have an event that you want to host, maybe bring him in as a speaker or a tournament, or maybe you're hosting a seminar or something like that. Mike is available. You can go to MikeHicksGolf.com, reach out to him, and maybe even be on your bag one day for a special event or a bucket list trip that you got planned. So Mike, finishing off our discussion on the U.S. Open, one of the things that we didn't really talk too much about was Sam Burns and his level of play this year. He is playing some great golf.
Yeah, he's played very consistent golf. You got to be fortunate to win one of those things. And I'm not going to say he's going to win one, because you just never know what's going to happen. Everything's got to go your way. But in retro, if you keep getting there, you'd like to think the door will open for you. So, just keep knocking. And, he had a really good demeanor going on Sunday. I thought he got a bad break last year at Oakmont, them not giving him the drop.
Gotta give him relief.
That was a bad ruling. And you know what? And he even said it. He should have been a little more forceful there, because it was casual water. I mean, he should have asked for a third opinion. I would have brought somebody in there till they gave me the drop. I know Payne would.
Yeah, I mean,
You just keep calling them in until one of them gives you the relief, right?
yeah, there you go. And yeah, he's been very adamant about that. I mean, like, he asked for two opinions and you kind of like say, okay, well, that's enough. But, after he hit that shot and, hindsight being 2020, yeah, I wish he would have, because I would have liked to have seen how that played out, last year at Oakmont for him. Tampa's a big supporter of Sam Burns. He actually won the Valspar here a few years back. And, myself being a Copperhead and part of the Valspar Championship, involved in that. I was, a silent, not silent, but I'm a Sam Burns fan, and I like the golf that he's playing and the consistency that he is showing, for sure. So,
well, he's won that tournament a couple of times now, I think, right?
Yeah.
And listen, as far as PGA Tour tournaments go, that particular golf tournament is about as U.S. Open as you're going to get. That's a very difficult test to golf, especially with any kind of wind. That is very U.S. Open like. So if he's won it twice, so I mean, he obviously likes that kind of golf.
Yeah, exactly. So, kind of wrapping up our stuff on the U.S. Open before we start talking a little bit about the next PGA event coming up here this weekend. What was the feeling when you won the U.S. Open with Payne? Maybe briefly. We talked sometime in the past about this, but since it's relative, you got to hoist the hardware and you got to celebrate with Payne. Maybe at Pinehurst, maybe just give us a quick brief thoughts on winning that.
I mean,
what it meant.
listen, 91 when we won at Hazeltine, it was his first major. It was it was more relief than anything else for him, because he was a major. He was contending in majors and just hadn't done it. And he won. Well, actually, that was our second major. So we won in '89 at PGA. That's right. So that was his second major. So what it did is it validated what he had done in '89, was winning it at Hazeltine. But the '99 Open, in my home state, first time at Pinehurst, and the fact that I was doing a charity event on the Monday after with Payne, Fred Couples, Hal Sutton, and Paul Azinger. And Payne, stayed with his commitment and went up and played that Monday after we won. So he spent the night at my house. On Sunday night, we drove the 65 miles in my van up to my house, and partied all night. And
I got to party all night. Yeah.
Partied all night. And then he, was just great the next day playing in this outing. So, it was a special thing because, I can guarantee you that no caddy has ever won a major and had their players spend the night in their house after winning. I mean, it ain't never happened. I guarantee you. So it was just, in my home state, it was just, it was a special week. And then, the Lord took him 4 months later, and, we all know that story. So, just a special week.
So we're talking with Mike Hicks from Mike Hicks Golf. This is Jeff Stanislow, your host of the Let's Go Low show right here on AM 820, the Big 8. We appreciate all the Tampa listeners and all those people that go to our YouTube channel, which we put up on our YouTube channel. If you just search up Golfers Unite, you can catch all these episodes from the Let's Go Low show. Since we've been doing it for a few months now, there's quite a few there. Again, thank you very much, Mike, for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about this upcoming tournament. We got the Travelers Championship. It's going to be held at TPC River Highlands, and they call it the Whiplash event because we're going to probably see -20, -25, and compared to what we saw at Shinnecock there. What's your first first thoughts on that course, and then just going from the difficulty of Shinnecock to a course where these guys can go low.
Well, it is one of the best TPCs they play, and the reason they go low there is because of the softness. Now that golf course is played hard and fast only a couple of times and 6-7 under wins. So if it's hard and fast, it's not a cakewalk. But like I said, it never plays that way because of when it is, and there's always been rain, thunderstorms. The course is it's throwing darts, and anytime a course is soft where the ball doesn't, the fairways are wider, the greens are, like I said, you're throwing darts. These guys are going to light it up. But that golf course is one of the best TPCs in the country as far as the layout goes. I love that golf course. There's some very difficult holes. There's some easier holes, but there are some very difficult holes. And like I said, it has only played hard and fast a couple of times. I think Lanny Watkins might have won at 6-7 under the first few times we went there. But it's never hard and fast. It could be a difficult course if they ever had those conditions.
This is Jeff Stanislaw. You're listening to Let's Go Low right here on AM 820, the Big 8 in Tampa. Again, Tampa, we appreciate you tuning in. Brought to you by Golfers Unite, golfersunite.com. If you want some deals on some golf equipment, merch, what have you, we got 4 free deals for signing up as a free member. For $30 for the year, you get access to 14 more deals from the likes of Branded Bills, Tacoma, Pinned Golf, Seed Golf Balls, even the Payne Stewart collection's on there. Mike helped me get that deal done. We got the Payne Stewart collection on there. Save and check it out, golfersunite.com.
Hey, I got to say something, everybody. That Seed Golf Ball is a really good golf ball. I've played it. It goes off the driver and it spins around the greens. I love that golf ball.
Yes, it's one of my favorite. It's my go-to now every time as well. And they were kind enough to send me the Golfers Unite branded golf balls, so I was really kind of them. But at the end of the day, it is a very, very good golf ball. Thanks for bringing that up, Mike. Pivoting to the favorites, for this upcoming event at the Travelers. We still have Scotty at the number 1 in odds. Then we got Xander, Tommy Fleetwood, Sam Burns, Ludwig, and then Wyndham Clark, who actually, now is broke into, one of the odds-on favorites. What do you think Wyndham's got to do, rebounding from that U.S. Open win?
So I take it Travelers is an elevated event.
Yes, I believe it is.
It has to be for all those guys to be playing. It's got to be a $20 million event, and they're being pretty much forced to play. So, Wyndham, could he contend again? Possibly. Just depends on how much mental effort he wants to put into it.
Yeah.
Scotty seems to just bring it mentally every week. So, he'll just move on. He didn't win. He didn't have a lot of the extra stuff to go through after the tournament was over Sunday. So, I'm sure he'll get some rest and be ready to rock and roll tomorrow for the Pro-Am and for Thursday. So, who knows? I mean, with that kind of field, they'll shoot the grass off that place if it's soft. And who knows? Whoever it's a putting contest at that point. So it's if they're throwing darts, it's who makes the most putts.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens with the likes of Bryson and Rahm, who I'd like to see him. I think it'd be good for the golf game to get, those guys, kind of back in there in the hunt and playing it. It's you look at, and we talked about the Tiger effect earlier, Mike, and we may not ever have one like that, once again in our generation, but we hope that it happens again because it's good for the game of golf. But having, like the likes of John Rahm, Brooks, Bryson, kind of hunting down these leaderboards is good for the game of golf. What who do you think's going to win? I'm liking Xander's game. He faltered a little bit over on the Open, but I still I like him, and I'd like to see Patty Ice with a nice rebound too.
Well, Xander, if he gets into the 20s, I don't know Xander's record and his wins, the scores, but I don't think he's a good enough putter to throw it in the 20s. That's just my opinion. Maybe he may have a great week putting. I don't know. Maybe he will. I think a lot of those guys, though, that were contending, there's going to be a little bit of a letdown going up there. And they can lose interest real quick if they're not making putts. All of a sudden they're 9-10 shots back and haven't teed off yet. And, get off to an even par through 6 holes, they can lose interest real fast. So, especially the guys that were in contention last week, because listen, you never know in that US Open what can happen. So you're grinding right to the end, mentally, and that takes a lot out of you. It does. So,
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. And going back to those live guys, listen, Bryson is really the only one that can move the needle anymore in golf because of the way he plays, because of his power, because of his uniqueness, and his personality. He needs to be playing on the PGA Tour. The tour needs Bryson DeChambeau. More so than any other player in the world. They need Bryson.
100%. Well, Mike Hicks from Mike Hicks Golf joining us here on the Caddie Corner. That wraps up our episode here every Saturday morning, 8 a.m., the Let's Go Low Show, brought to you by Jeff Stanislow and Golfers Unite, golfersunite.com. We appreciate you all tuning in, Tampa. Until next time, let's go low.